talk to Jordan Reid, who's an author and beloved influencer in the mama sphere. She's the author of Ramshackle Glam, which tackles everything from pregnancy to parenting to anxiety, also the big activity book for divorced people. Jordan, you've been following a really interesting story. A new divorce law in Kentucky has a lot of people talking about that. But before we jump into this new law, I know you can share with us about your own divorce experience and how you bring that to
Yes.
your to your social media presence, and also writing about that.
Yeah. So 7 years ago, when I started going through a divorce myself, I was writing about it in real time on my site, Ramshackle Glam. And so discussing everything from the reality of downsizing homes to the challenges associated with shared custody when you have been really the primary caregiver.
Talk to us about this new law. What are they doing in Kentucky?
So in Kentucky, the new legal default is to have 50-50 shared custody in cases of divorce or separation. And this seems to be a reaction to this perception that women tend to be favored in cases of custodial dispute, right? Largely because, as I said, they tend to be the ones who are the cruise directors, whether or not they're also in the workplace themselves. And that's a perception that, is it fair? I don't know, but is it accurate? Yes. In my experience, it is quite accurate for women in heterosexual partnerships.
So, a lot of headlines are saying, Jordan, that this new law is keeping couples together. But why?
So if divorce rates are going down, I can think of a number of reasons why that would be a positive thing. Maybe there's increased access to mental health care. Maybe there's more support for parental leave or childcare. But in this present environment, that's just simply not the case. And my fear is that this is instead a reaction that is not going to benefit the children because it's going to be prioritizing this sort of tidy wrap up to a situation over the nuances of a given reality.
You mentioned before that divorce law has historically favored women. Why do you think there's been this shift in this other direction in Kentucky?
To be honest, I think that, like I said, it's this reaction to this perception that women tend to be favored, but it's also just not taking into account that if the divorce rate is going down, it might very well be because women are feeling increasingly disenfranchised in this political environment. And there is a real danger that the divorce rate is going down because it's harder for women to leave.
So it's not that couples are suddenly finding bliss once again, necessarily.
More power to them if they are, but that is not something that I think is happening. I think, there are certain nuances that can be very difficult to spot in a custodial dispute case, like emotional abuse. Obviously, we know that this is just as devastating as physical abuse, but it's harder to see. There may be different realities, like women, someone might have better access to childcare, someone might have a more accommodating employer, and all of those things, they matter. And my fear is that the rigidity of these laws is going to be favored over the thoughtfulness of these laws. And when we're talking about the emotional stability of children in an incredibly vulnerable situation, that matters.
All right, Jordan Reid, founder of Ramshackle Glam. We appreciate you joining us to let us know about this change in Kentucky. Really interesting perspective coming out of Kentucky.